Change is not about willpower. It's not about setting goals once a year. And it's definitely not about waiting for the perfect moment to act. Change comes down to one thing: taking control of your decisions and mastering your emotions. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 100+ life-changing lessons from Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And if you truly apply them, your life will change faster than your old habits ever could. Chapter 1: Dreams of Destiny. Lesson 1: You have a sleeping giant within you. Every human being possesses extraordinary untapped potential. Robbins believes that our Creator doesn't play favorites. Each of us has been given unique talent and genius, whether in art, relationships, business, or leadership. Most people never discover this potential because they live on autopilot. The book's entire mission is to help you wake up, claim your birthright, and stop dabbling through life. Lesson 2: 3 Steps to Lasting Change. Robbins presents 3 organizing principles that all lasting personal change must pass through. Raise your standards. Write down what you will no longer tolerate in your life and what you aspire to become. History's greatest figures, Gandhi, Lincoln, Einstein, changed the world by first changing what they demanded of themselves. Change your limiting beliefs. Raising standards without belief creates self-sabotage. You must develop a sense of certainty that you can meet the new standard before you actually do. Change your strategy. Find role models who are already getting the results you want. Model their core beliefs and actions. This saves years of reinventing the wheel. Lesson 3: 5 Areas of Mastery. Robbins identifies the 5 areas that impact life most profoundly. 1. Emotional mastery. Everything we do is to change the way we feel. Master this and the rest follows. 2. Physical mastery. Without health, no achievement can truly be enjoyed. 3. Relationship mastery. The quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. 4. Financial mastery. Money is a means for contribution, not the end all of happiness. 5. Time mastery. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Lesson 4: Knowledge alone is not enough. Knowing what to do is not the same as doing what you know. The gap between knowing and doing is the source of most human frustration. Reading this book changes nothing unless you act on it immediately. Consistent action, not sporadic bursts, is what creates lasting results. Chapter 2: The Pathway to Power. Lesson 5: Your destiny is shaped in moments of decision. Every meaningful event in your life, what thrills you and what challenges you, began with a decision. Robbins argues that decisions, not conditions, determine destiny. You are not the product of your circumstances. You are the product of your choices. The powerful choices of Rosa Parks, Gandhi, and Lech Walesa weren't made by exceptional people. They were made by ordinary people who refused to accept the ordinary. Lesson 6: True decision means cutting off all other possibilities. The word decision comes from the Latin de, from, and cedere, to cut. A real decision cuts off all other options. When you truly decide you'll stop smoking, that's it, it's over. Most people make preferences masquerading as decisions. The difference between being interested in something and being committed to it is the difference between wishing and achieving. Lesson 7: The 3 decisions that control your destiny. At every moment, your brain makes 3 critical decisions. 1. What to focus on. What you focus on becomes your reality. 2. What things mean to you. The meaning you assign to events determines how you feel. 3. What to do to create the results you desire. Action flows from meaning. Anyone performing better than you in any area is simply making these 3 decisions differently in that context. Lesson 8: The Niagara Syndrome. Most people go with the flow of life without consciously deciding where they're headed. They get caught in current events, current fears, and current challenges. Suddenly, they find themselves 5 feet from the falls with no oars. The solution: Put both oars in the water and paddle with intention, or plan your course upstream before you get swept away. Lesson 9. Make decisions rapidly and change them slowly. Research shows the most successful people make decisions quickly because they know their values and change them slowly, if at all. People who fail tend to decide slowly and change their minds quickly. Decision-making is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Lesson 10. Never leave the scene of a decision without taking action. A decision without action is merely a wish. Robbins' personal rule: never leave the site of setting a goal without taking at least one small, specific action toward its realization. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates results. Lesson 11. Success is the result of good judgment built on experience. Good judgment comes from experience, and experience often comes from bad judgment. The key is to learn from failures rather than beat yourself up. There are no failures, only results. Adopt the belief: every wrong attempt discarded is another step forward. Lesson 12. Commit to long-term thinking. One of the most important decisions you can make is to commit to long-term results rather than short-term fixes. Most personal, national, and corporate crises are the product of short-term thinking. Seasons change. Even in the hardest winter, spring always comes. Don't abandon a goal because it hasn't materialized quickly. Chapter 3. The Force That Shapes Your Life. Lesson 13. Pain and pleasure drive all human behavior. Everything you and I do, we do either to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. This is the single most fundamental force behind every decision, every action, every human behavior. Understanding this is the master key to understanding yourself and every person you'll ever meet. Donald Trump and Mother Teresa are driven by the same force. They've simply learned to link pain and pleasure to different things. Lesson 14. What you link pain and pleasure to shapes your destiny. Most people link pain to change and pleasure to staying the same, which is why they stay stuck. The key is to consciously reassign these associations. Link massive pain to not changing and massive pleasure to the new behavior. This is not manipulation. It is the deliberate use of the brain's own wiring. Lesson 15. You can change what you link pain and pleasure to at any moment. Neural associations are not permanent. They are habits of the nervous system that can be reconditioned. Robbins' entire system of neuroassociative conditioning, NAC, is built on this premise. You don't need years of therapy to break a pattern. You need a strong enough reason and a new association installed with enough emotional intensity. Chapter 4. Belief Systems: The Power to Create and the Power to Destroy. Lesson 16. Beliefs are the foundation of all results. Your beliefs about yourself, others, and the world determine every action you take and every result you get. A belief is not a fact. It is a feeling of certainty about what something means. Two people can have identical circumstances and produce opposite results based solely on their beliefs. Beliefs are the lens through which all experience is filtered. Lesson 17. Beliefs are supported by references. Every belief you hold is like a tabletop held up by legs. Those legs are your references, experiences, stories, observations, and facts, real or imagined, that you interpret as evidence for the belief. To change a belief, you must either challenge its references or add new references that contradict it. Without new references, even good intentions collapse. Lesson 18. Global beliefs shape everything. Global beliefs, life is, people are, I am, are the most powerful and the most dangerous beliefs you carry. They act as filters applied to every experience. Life is a struggle will produce a completely different life than life is an adventure. The key is to identify your global beliefs and consciously redesign them to serve your highest aspirations. Lesson 19. Empowering beliefs can be installed deliberately. You don't have to wait for life to hand you confidence-building experiences. You can deliberately create references through visualization, modeling, and action. The brain doesn't distinguish strongly between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. Rehearse success in your mind with enough intensity, and you begin building real neural references for it. Chapter 5. Can change happen in an instant? Lesson 20. Lasting change can happen in a moment. Robbins challenges the cultural assumption that real change takes a long time. It doesn't. The decision to change happens in an instant. The rest is follow-through. Smokers who quit cold turkey are more successful than those who taper slowly. Insight, a single, searing moment of clarity, can permanently rewire a neural pathway. The key is making that decision with absolute certainty and burning your bridges behind you. Lesson 21. 3 Steps to Lasting Change in Practice. The 3 steps from Chapter 1 become a daily practice. First, raise your standards by writing down specifically what you will no longer tolerate and what you are committed to creating. Second, identify and shatter the limiting beliefs that have kept you from those standards. Third, model someone who is already living at those standards and adopt their strategies immediately. Chapter 6. How to Change Anything in Your Life. Lesson 22. NAC is the technology of permanent change. Neuroassociative conditioning is Robbins's step-by-step system for eliminating any unwanted behavior and installing any new one. It is based on the premise that all behavior stems from what you link pain and pleasure to neurologically. Change those links, and the behavior changes automatically. The 6 steps of NAC work together as a system. Skipping one step is why most change attempts fail. Lesson 23. Step 1. Decide what you really want and what's preventing you. Most people know what they don't want but have only a vague idea of what they do want. Clarity of desire is the foundation. Then identify the specific beliefs and patterns that have been the barrier. Without identifying the real obstacle, usually a belief, not a circumstance, you'll keep fighting the symptom rather than the cause. Lesson 24. Step 2. Get leverage, associate massive pain to not changing. The number one reason people don't change is that they haven't associated enough pain to the current behavior. They know it's bad, but it's not bad enough yet. Leverage means making it real, vividly and emotionally connecting with what this pattern will cost you in 5, 10, 20 years. In your health, your relationships, your self-respect. Make the cost of staying the same unbearable. Lesson 25. Step 3. Interrupt the limiting pattern. Before you can install a new pattern, you must break the existing one. Pattern interrupts, physical state changes, humor, absurd associations, can shatter even deeply entrenched neural habits. The more unexpected and intense the interrupt, the more effective. A pattern that can't run can't produce its usual result. Lesson 26. Step 4. Create a new, empowering alternative. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you remove a behavior without replacing it, you create an unstable state that will snap back. Design a compelling new behavior that meets the same underlying needs as the old one, but in a healthier, more resourceful way. The alternative must feel genuinely satisfying, not just intellectually correct. Lesson 27. Step 5. Condition the new pattern until it's automatic. Repetition is how the nervous system learns. A new behavior attempted once remains fragile. The same behavior repeated with emotional intensity across varied contexts and circumstances becomes a habit. Use spaced repetition, emotional anchoring, and reward to drive the new pattern deep into your neurology. Lesson 28. Step 6. Test the change. Once you've conditioned the new pattern, test it by deliberately putting yourself in the context where the old pattern used to fire. If the new response runs automatically and the old craving or behavior is gone, the change is complete. If not, return to leverage. The old pattern is still more pleasurable or less painful than the new one. Chapter 7. How to Get What You Really Want. Lesson 29. Clarify your outcome before pursuing it. Most people pursue vague goals and are surprised by vague results. Clarity is power. Before investing significant time or energy in any direction, get crystalline clarity on exactly what you want, why you want it, and what it will cost you. The brain is a goal-seeking mechanism. Give it a precise target, and it will find paths you never consciously considered. Lesson 30. Know your outcome. Take action, have sensory acuity, and remain flexible. Robbins distills success into 4 steps used by every high achiever. Know precisely what you want. Take massive action toward it. Develop sensory acuity. Pay attention to whether your actions are producing the desired results. Remain flexible. If what you're doing isn't working, change your approach. Most people stop at step 2, then blame the goal when the first approach doesn't work. Chapter 8. Questions are the answer. Lesson 31. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. Your brain automatically seeks answers to any question you ask it. Ask, "Why does this always happen to me?" And your brain will produce evidence. Ask, "What's great about this situation?" And it will find that instead. Questions direct your focus, and your focus determines your experience. The most powerful thing you can change is the habitual questions you ask yourself. Lesson 32. Morning Power Questions. Robbins recommends asking yourself these questions every morning to set a peak emotional state for the day. What am I happy about in my life right now? What am I excited about in my life right now? What am I proud of in my life right now? What am I grateful for in my life right now? What am I committed to in my life right now? Who do I love? Who loves me? The instruction is to ask the question, then close your eyes and feel the answer fully in your body. Lesson 33. Evening Power Questions. At night, these questions create a feedback loop of growth and gratitude. What have I given today? What did I learn today? How has today added to the quality of my life or others' lives? The final question before sleep. How can I use today as a stepping stone to my future? Lesson 34. Problem-solving questions versus empowering questions. Most people have a default set of problem-focused questions. What's wrong? Why can't I do this? Who's to blame? That keep them trapped in problems. Replace them with solution-focused questions. What's good about this? What's not perfect yet? What am I willing to do to make it the way I want? What can I learn from this? Chapter 9. The Vocabulary of Ultimate Success. Lesson 35. The words you use create your emotional reality. Your brain responds to the labels you attach to your experiences. Call something a disaster, and your brain generates disaster-level emotional chemistry. Call it a challenge, and a different response emerges. Call it a gift, and something else entirely happens. Words are not neutral. They are emotional commands to your nervous system. Lesson 36. Transformational Vocabulary. Robbins introduces the concept of deliberately choosing words that lower the temperature of negative states and raise the temperature of positive ones. Instead of "I'm furious," try "I'm a bit annoyed." Instead of "I'm depressed," try "I'm feeling a little low." Instead of "I'm okay," try "I'm outstanding." The shift is not denial. It is directing your nervous system toward a more resourceful state. Lesson 37. Eliminate violent and absolute language. Words like always, never, hate, destroyed, and impossible amplify emotional pain and lock in fixed thinking. Replace them with accurate, calibrated language. Sometimes, rarely, prefer not to, not yet. These words preserve possibility and reduce unnecessary emotional intensity. Precision in language creates precision in thinking and feeling. Chapter 10. The 10-Day Mental Challenge. Lesson 38. You can control your focus for 10 days. The 10-Day Mental Challenge is simple. For 10 consecutive days, refuse to dwell on any disempowering thought, feeling, or emotion. The moment you catch yourself in a negative state, use a pattern interrupt, ask an empowering question, and redirect your focus. If you slip, reset the clock and start over. 10 days of this discipline is enough to rewire habitual patterns of thought that took years to build. Lesson 39. Discipline comes before freedom. Most people want the freedom of positive emotions without the discipline of managing their focus. But emotional freedom is earned through practice. The 10-day challenge is a training ground for the most important skill you can develop: the ability to choose your mental and emotional state regardless of external circumstances. Lesson 40. Consistent focus on the good doesn't mean ignoring problems. The mental challenge is not about pretending bad things don't happen. It is about refusing to dwell in powerless states when they do. You can acknowledge a problem, act on it decisively, and simultaneously maintain an empowering internal state. What you cannot do, if you want peak performance, is marinate in negativity without cost. The force behind the meaning. Lesson 41. Emotions are the colors of human experience. Without emotion, life is gray. Emotions give meaning to memory, depth to relationships, and fuel to action. Robbins doesn't want you to eliminate negative emotions. He wants you to understand them as signals, not as permanent states. Every emotion, even pain, exists for a reason and carries a message. Lesson 42. You create your own emotional states. Emotions are not things that happen to you. They are states you create, consciously or unconsciously, through your physiology, focus, and the meaning you assign to events. Two people can walk away from the same experience with completely opposite emotional responses. The one who understands this is empowered. The one who doesn't is a victim. Lesson 43. 3 tools to change your emotional state immediately. Robbins identifies 3 levers available to you at any moment. Physiology, your posture, breathing, facial expression, and movement directly wire to your emotional state. Change your body and you change your emotion. Focus. What you focus on determines how you feel. Deliberately redirect your attention. Language, meaning change the label or story you're attaching to an event, and the emotion attached to it transforms. Chapter 12. Lesson 44. 10 emotions every human being needs to experience. Robbins identifies 10 core positive emotions that represent the full richness of human emotional capacity. These are not luxuries. They are necessities for a fully lived life. They are love and warmth, appreciation and gratitude, curiosity, excitement and passion, determination, flexibility, confidence, cheerfulness, vitality, and contribution. Lesson 45. Cultivate emotions as skills, not accidents. Most people experience positive emotions only when circumstances cooperate. Robbins argues that each of these emotions is a skill that can be developed through practice, just like a physical muscle. You can choose to enter a state of gratitude even when life gives you no obvious reason to feel it. The capacity to summon positive emotions at will is the highest form of personal mastery. Chapter 13. The 10 Action Signals. Lesson 46. Negative emotions are action signals, not enemies. Every so-called negative emotion, discomfort, fear, hurt, anger, frustration, disappointment, guilt, inadequacy, overload, and loneliness, is a message from your nervous system that something needs to change. They are not meant to be endured, suppressed, or wallowed in. They are designed to be decoded, acted upon, and released. Lesson 47. Discomfort. Signal: something in your life is not aligned with what you value or desire. Action: get clear on what you want. Change your procedure or your perception. Discomfort is the lowest intensity signal, which is why most people ignore it until it becomes something louder. Lesson 48. Fear. Signal: you are anticipating pain in the future. Action: prepare. Clarify what you're afraid of. Ask: is this fear based on a real and present danger, or is it an imagined projection? Most fear is the latter. Use it as motivation to prepare, then take action. Lesson 49. Hurt. Signal: you have experienced a loss, real or perceived. Action: communicate. Often hurt arises from unmet expectations. Check: was your expectation reasonable? Was it communicated? Was it understood? Unexpressed hurt becomes resentment. Lesson 50. Anger. Signal: a rule you hold has been violated by yourself or someone else. Action: reevaluate the rule. Communicate: anger that is acted upon without reflection destroys relationships. Anger that is channeled becomes determination. Lesson 51. Frustration. Signal: you believe a better result is possible and your current approach isn't working. Action: change your approach. Frustration is energy. It means you care. It becomes destructive only when you keep doing the same thing while expecting a different result. Lesson 52. Disappointment. Signal: an expected outcome did not materialize. Action: reevaluate the expectation. Adjust the timeline. Learn from the attempt. Disappointment is useful only as a teacher. Indulging in it as an identity is self-destructive. Lesson 53. Guilt. Signal: you have violated your own standards. Action: acknowledge it. Apologize if necessary. Learn from it. Change the behavior. Guilt that lingers beyond the point of learning is self-punishment masquerading as responsibility. Lesson 54. Inadequacy. Signal: you don't yet have the skills or resources you need to meet a standard you care about. Action: learn. Model. Get feedback. Inadequacy is the signal to grow, not the verdict that you can't. Lesson 55. Overload or overwhelm. Signal: you are trying to focus on too many things at once and have lost your sense of priority. Action: stop. Write everything down. Prioritize. Eliminate. Delegate. Focus on the single most important task. Overwhelm is a problem of focus, not capacity. Lesson 56. Loneliness. Signal: you need connection with others or with yourself. Action: reach out. Create it. Don't wait for it to come to you. Loneliness is one of the most common emotional states in the modern world and one of the most curable. Chapter 14. Lesson 57. A compelling future is a biological necessity. Human beings need something to move toward. Without a compelling vision of the future, the nervous system begins to deteriorate. Studies of prisoners of war, cancer survivors, and concentration camp survivors consistently show that those who maintained a vivid, emotionally charged vision of a future life were the most likely to survive. A goal is not a luxury, it is life fuel. Lesson 58. Goals must be specific, positive, and present tense. Vague goals produce vague results. Write your goals in the present tense as if they are already accomplished. I am, I have, I earn. This programs the reticular activating system, the brain's filter to notice opportunities, resources, and people that match the goal. The brain can't distinguish between a vividly imagined goal and a real memory. Use this fact deliberately. Lesson 59. 4 categories of goals. Robbins recommends setting goals in 4 categories. Personal development: what skills, qualities, or knowledge do you want to develop? Career and business: what do you want to build or achieve professionally? Toys and adventures: what experiences do you want to have? And contribution: what do you want to give back? Balance across all 4 creates a life that feels rich in every dimension. Lesson 60. Set goals that excite and slightly terrify you. Goals that are too small produce no energy. Goals that are impossible produce despair. The sweet spot is a goal that makes you say, I don't know exactly how I'll do that, but I believe it's possible. This creates just enough uncertainty to be energizing and just enough believability to be actionable. Lesson 61. The 1-year, 5-year, and 10-year vision. Robbins asks readers to map out what they want to accomplish, experience, and give in the next year, 5 years, and 10 years. The 1-year goal creates urgency. The 10-year goal creates permission to dream big. The gap between them creates the roadmap. Most people overestimate 1 year and catastrophically underestimate 10. Lesson 62. Your most important goal. Of all your goals, identify the single one that, if achieved in the next 12 months, would have the greatest positive impact on your life. That is your primary focus. Everything else is secondary. This isn't about ignoring other goals. It's about ensuring your most important one doesn't get lost in the noise. Chapter 15. The Master System. Lesson 63. 5 elements control every evaluation you make. Robbins identifies the 5 components of what he calls your master system, the invisible architecture behind every decision, every emotion, and every behavior. They are your mental and emotional state, the questions you habitually ask, your values, what you believe is most important, your beliefs and rules, what you believe is true and what must happen for you to feel good, and your references, the experiences that support your beliefs. Lesson 64. State is the first domino. Your emotional and physiological state at any given moment determines how you interpret events, which questions arise, and which beliefs get activated. A person in a peak state makes different decisions than the same person in a low state. This is why Robbins insists that managing your state is not a luxury. It is the foundational skill of performance. Lesson 65. Questions shape all interpretation. Your habitual questions direct your mental focus, which determines what you perceive, what you feel, and what you decide. Change your habitual questions, and you change your habitual experience of life. Lesson 66. Values are the GPS of your life. Your values, the things you believe are most important, determine what you move toward and what you move away from. When your actions are aligned with your values, you feel fulfilled. When they conflict, you feel empty or anxious. The single greatest source of long-term dissatisfaction is living in conflict with your own values. Lesson 67. Beliefs and rules are the filters. Your beliefs determine what you think is possible. Your rules determine what must happen for you to feel good or bad about yourself. Together, they create the invisible standards by which you judge every experience. Most people have never consciously examined these filters, and so they are controlled by defaults they inherited rather than chose. Lesson 68. References are the raw material. The experiences, real and imagined, that you've accumulated form the database from which all beliefs draw their power. Richer references, more empowering beliefs equals better decisions equals better life. Seek new experiences, especially those that challenge your current limits. Chapter 16. Lesson 69. Moving toward values versus moving away from values. Every person has 2 types of values, things they move toward: love, success, adventure, freedom, and things they move away from: rejection, failure, humiliation, conflict. Your hierarchy of moving away from values shapes your life as powerfully as your moving toward values. A person who is driven primarily by avoiding failure will make radically different choices than one driven by achieving excellence. Lesson 70. Know your values hierarchy. Your values are not all equal. They exist in a hierarchy of priority. When values conflict, say, freedom versus security or family versus ambition, the higher-ranked value wins. Most internal conflict is the result of 2 important values colliding without the person recognizing it. Clarifying your hierarchy resolves conflicts that have seemed intractable for years. Lesson 71. Values can be consciously redesigned. You inherited most of your values before the age of 10. They were installed by parents, culture, religion, and circumstance, not chosen by a conscious adult you. You now have the right and the ability to audit them. Ask, does this value serve who I want to become? Does it serve the people I love? If not, redesign it. Lesson 72. Means values versus end values. Most people confuse means values, money, cars, status, with end values, freedom, security, love. Means values are instruments. End values are destinations. When you pursue a means value as if it were an end value, believing that money will make you happy, you'll achieve the means and still feel empty because you bypass the actual target. Lesson 73. Rules determine when you experience your values. For every value you hold, you have a set of rules, conditions that must be met before you allow yourself to feel that value is being honored. If your rule for love is, people must tell me they love me every day for me to feel loved, you will rarely feel loved. If your rule is, I feel love whenever I think about the people in my life, you will feel it constantly. Design rules you can win. Lesson 74. Conflicting values create internal war. When two of your high-priority values collide, for example, I value honesty and I value being liked, you experience chronic internal conflict. The resolution is not to eliminate one value but to create a higher-order value that contains both. For example, I value honest, compassionate communication. This synthesis ends the war. Lesson 75. Align your daily actions with your values. The ultimate test of values is not what you say you believe, but what you actually do. Review your calendar, your bank account, and your daily behavior. They reveal your real values hierarchy, not your stated one. The gap between aspired values and lived values is the source of most dissatisfaction. Close it. Lesson 76. Your rules are running your life. Rules are the conditions you've set consciously or unconsciously for when you will experience your values. Most people have elaborate, complex rules for feeling good and very simple rules for feeling bad. I feel successful only when I receive recognition from others. Complex versus I feel like a failure the moment something goes wrong. Simple. This guarantees chronic dissatisfaction. Lesson 77. Set up rules you can win. Redesign your rules so that 1. They are easy to meet. 2. You have control over them, internal not external. And 3. They don't require specific behaviors from other people as a precondition. I feel successful when I give my best effort is a rule you can win every day. I feel successful only when I'm famous is a rule you will lose for most of your life. Lesson 78. Make sure your rules don't conflict with others. Relationship problems are largely rule problems. You have rules about how you should be treated, how your partner should behave, what respect looks like, and what love means. Your partner has different rules. Neither of you is wrong, you have different programming. The solution is communication. Expose the rules, negotiate, redesign where necessary. Lesson 79. Threshold rules. When you'll change. Every person has a threshold, a point at which they will finally make a change. Below that threshold, the pain of changing outweighs the pain of staying the same. The most important question is, do you set your threshold consciously, based on your values and vision, or do you let pain set it for you? The former is wisdom, the latter is a crisis. Lesson 80. Pain versus pleasure as rule triggers. Every rule ultimately comes down to what you've linked to pain and what you've linked to pleasure. Rules that are triggered by pain avoidance create a defensive, reactive life. Rules triggered by movement toward pleasure create an expansive, proactive one. Audit your rules through this lens. Is this rule pulling me toward what I want, or protecting me from what I fear? Lesson 81. Give up the need for perfection as a rule. Perfectionism is a rule problem. Perfectionists have set a standard so high that it's virtually impossible to meet, and they've linked their self-worth to whether they meet it. The result is procrastination, self-criticism, and paralysis. Replace, I must be perfect to feel good about myself, with I am committed to excellence and I celebrate progress. Lesson 82. Your rules create your identity. Over time, the rules you consistently apply, especially those tied to self-worth, become the definition of who you are. Lenient rules with yourself and strict rules with others create arrogance. Strict rules with yourself and lenient rules with others create servility. Balanced, flexible rules, combined with high standards, create integrity. Lesson 83. Robbins' Eclipse Story. Robbins tells the story of arranging an elaborate, once-in-a-lifetime trip to a remote island to witness a solar eclipse, only to have the island covered in clouds. Rather than experiencing disappointment, he and his wife felt joy throughout. The reason? They had designed their rules about the eclipse in advance. Their rule: we enjoy this experience no matter what. The clouds were irrelevant. The experience was what they decided it would be. Lesson 84. Decide in advance what an experience will mean. One of the greatest powers available to a human being is the power to decide in advance what an experience will mean. Before a difficult conversation, a high-stakes performance, or an uncertain outcome, consciously set the rule for how you'll interpret whatever happens. This is not wishful thinking. It is the premeditated use of your meaning-making faculty. Lesson 85. Most suffering is a rule problem. A large proportion of human suffering is caused not by circumstances, but by rules, standards, and expectations that reality consistently fails to meet. The cure is not to lower your standards, but to change your rules so that joy becomes accessible in more circumstances. A person who can only be happy when everything goes perfectly will rarely be happy. A person whose rule for happiness is "I'm alive and I'm here" will almost always be. Lesson 86. You can be happy for no reason at all. Nothing has to happen in order for you to feel good. You could feel good right now for absolutely no reason whatsoever. The eclipse didn't make people happy or unhappy. Their rules about the eclipse did. Robbins and Becky decided their rule for the eclipse day was, "We will enjoy this no matter what happens." That one rule guaranteed their joy regardless of clouds, crowds, or cameras. Adopt this as a global rule for life. Chapter 17. Lesson 87. References are the raw material of belief. Every belief you have is built from references, the experiences, real and imagined, personal and absorbed from others, that you've accumulated and organized. People with richer, more diverse references make better decisions in every domain. References don't have to be your own direct experiences. A powerful book, a role model story, or a vividly imagined scenario can serve as reference legs for a new belief. Lesson 88. References can be real or imagined. The brain doesn't distinguish. When Roger Bannister decided to break the 4-minute mile, he rehearsed it mentally thousands of times, creating vivid neural references of success before the physical event. Within 1 year of his success, 37 runners broke the same barrier. What changed? Their reference system changed. They now believed it was possible. Bill Gates promised delivery of software he hadn't written because he could create in his mind the certainty of delivering. Conviction without references is still power if vividly held. Lesson 89. Expand your references to expand your life. Seek out role models, stories, travel books, and experiences that expand your sense of what's possible. Every new reference that challenges a limiting belief is a gift. Robbins spent years interviewing remarkable men and women across every domain to harvest their beliefs, strategies, and references. Their excellence became available to him not through genetics but through modeling. You can do the same. Chapter 18. Identity: the key to expansion. Lesson 90. Your identity is the most powerful force in your life. The strongest drive in human nature is the drive to remain consistent with how you define yourself. If you define yourself as not athletic, you'll unconsciously sabotage any fitness success to maintain that identity. If you define yourself as someone who always follows through, you'll find ways to do it even when conditions make it difficult. The most important change you can make is at the level of identity. Lesson 91. You are not your behaviors. People often defend destructive patterns because they've confused who they are with what they do. I'm an angry person. I'm a procrastinator. I'm not a morning person. These are behaviors, not identities. Separate the two. Behaviors can be changed. Identities are defended. The moment you detach the behavior from the identity, change becomes possible without threatening survival. Lesson 92. Expand your identity to expand your life. Your current behaviors represent only a fraction of who you are capable of being. Throughout history, people have made identity shifts, moments when they suddenly experienced themselves as capable of something they never imagined. Robbins went from a struggling 19-year-old to the world's leading coach partly by choosing to see himself as someone capable of helping millions. Choose the identity that serves your highest calling and begin to act as if it were already true. Lesson 93: Society may predict, but only you determine your destiny. The most moving moment in the book belongs to 4-year-old Talmadge Griffin, a student of teacher Marva Collins, who responded to Robbins's question about what Mrs. Collins had taught him. The most important thing Mrs. Collins has taught me is that society may predict, but only I will determine my destiny. This encapsulates the entire book's message. Circumstances suggest, identity decides. Part 3: Destiny Days: Applying Mastery in Every Domain. Lesson 94: Emotional Destiny. Condition daily empowering emotions. Your emotional destiny is determined by the emotional states you habitually return to. Don't leave your emotions to chance or circumstance. Deliberately condition yourself to access love, gratitude, curiosity, and vitality daily. Use morning power questions, physiology, and vocabulary as daily tools. Emotional mastery is not about eliminating negative emotions. It's about reducing their duration and increasing your access to peak states. Lesson 95: Physical Destiny. Your body is your vehicle. Physical health is not separate from success. It is a prerequisite for it. Without energy, clarity, and physical vitality, even the greatest goals become inaccessible. Invest in understanding what nourishes your specific body. The worst diet in the world is not the one that makes you fat. It's the one that makes you tired, foggy, and incapable of living with passion. Treat physical mastery as seriously as professional mastery. Lesson 96: Relationship Destiny. Master connection. The quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. Mastering relationships starts with understanding your own values, rules, and expectations, then having the courage to communicate them clearly. The greatest gift you can give someone is your full presence and your genuine commitment to understanding their model of the world, not just expecting them to understand yours. Lesson 97: Financial Destiny. Wealth is a tool, not an end. Financial freedom comes from changing your beliefs about money, moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. The key is not how much you earn, but how consistently you invest, manage, and use money in alignment with your values. Financial stress is rarely about the amount of money. It's about the gap between your values, what you believe you need to be happy, and your current resources. Lesson 98: Time Mastery. Live richly, not efficiently. Time mastery is not about squeezing more tasks into fewer hours. It's about understanding which actions have the greatest impact, 80-20 principle, eliminating activities that don't serve your values, and protecting time for the things that give your life its richest quality. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and catastrophically underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. Final chapters: The Ultimate Challenge. Lesson 99: One person can change the world. The book's closing chapters assert that the same tools that transform an individual's life, raising standards, changing beliefs, committing to a compelling future, mastering emotions, redesigning values, are the same tools that transform communities and nations. History's most dramatic changes began with individuals who refused to accept the current reality as the final one. You are one decision away from becoming that person. Lesson 100: The Secret to Living is Giving. Robbins's most personal insight, written in his journal while driving alone on a freeway at his lowest point, is the simplest and most profound lesson in the book. The secret to living is giving. The greatest source of sustained joy, meaning, identity, and motivation is contribution, not occasional charity, but a life organized around adding value to others. Every person who has achieved lasting fulfillment has discovered this. Those who haven't are still searching. Lesson 101: What one person can do is limitless. The book's final challenge is to stop treating personal development as self-improvement and start treating it as preparation for impact. Your growth is not just for you, It is for every person your life will touch. The skills and strategies in this book are not luxuries, they are responsibilities. You have been given extraordinary potential. The question is not whether you are capable of greatness. The question is whether you will decide to use it. Lasting fulfillment comes from adding value to others. These 101+ lessons represent the full depth and breadth of Robbins's Awaken the Giant Within, organized chapter by chapter. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more life lessons from great books. This is Summaries by Dannyel. See you in the next video.